Femi, the serpent, and the king's broken promise. The legend of the Night Serpent. The air was often filled with laughter and joy in a small village nestled between towering green mountains and thick, mysterious forests. The villagers worked hard during the day, tending to their crops and livestock. But as night fell, a shadow loomed over them, the Night Serpent. This monstrous creature had scales that shimmered like jewels and eyes that glowed in the dark. It would slither into the village each night, taking livestock and spreading fear among the people. The villagers lived in constant terror, believing no one could defeat the beast. They had watched brave warriors try to confront the serpent, only to meet terrible fates. Many nights were filled with the sounds of cries and chaos as the serpent wreaked havoc, leaving the villagers helpless and filled with despair. One day, a young traveler named Femi entered the village. He was a humble boy, dressed in simple clothes and carrying nothing but a worn-out bag and a spear he had fashioned from a sturdy branch. His kind eyes sparkled with determination, and he was eager to help the villagers. Femi decided to step forward when he learned of the Night Serpent and the fear that gripped the village. "Let me fight the serpent," he said boldly, standing before the villagers gathered in the square. The villagers exchanged doubtful glances, unsure if a simple traveler could take on such a fierce creature. The village head, who was also the king, stepped forward. He was a tall man with a regal bearing, but his face showed signs of worry. "You are brave to offer your help, young traveler," he said. "But many strong warriors have tried and failed. What makes you think you can succeed?" Femi looked straight into the king's eyes. "I may not be strong like the warriors, but I have courage and faith. I will not give up without a fight." Impressed by Femi's determination, the king made a grand promise to all the villagers. "If you defeat the Night Serpent, you may choose any woman in the village to marry, even my daughter, Io." A murmur ran through the crowd. Io, the king's daughter, was known for her beauty and kindness. The villagers had never heard of such a promise before, and many were excited about the idea of a hero emerging from their midst. Femi felt a spark of hope ignite within him. If he could slay the serpent, he would save the village and win Io's heart. However, the king did not expect Femi to succeed. He thought it would be just another failed attempt, allowing him to maintain control over the situation. As the stars twinkled in the sky that night, Femi prepared himself for the challenge ahead. He fashioned a spear from sturdy wood, sharpening its end to a fine point. He also created traps using vines and branches, hoping to catch the serpent off guard. While he worked, whispers of doubt echoed in his mind. Could he truly defeat the Night Serpent? But then he thought of the villagers, how they lived in fear, and Io's bright smile. He knew he had to try. As midnight approached, Femi took his position near the edge of the village, hiding behind a large tree. The villagers gathered to watch, their hearts filled with hope and fear. They had witnessed the serpent's wrath too many times, but there was something different about Femi. His confidence seemed to bring a glimmer of hope to their hearts. Just as the moon rose high in the sky, the ground began to tremble. The Night Serpent emerged from the shadows, its scales glistening in the moonlight and its eyes burning like embers. The air grew tense as the villagers held their breath, watching the terrifying creature slither closer. Femi steeled himself, his heart pounding. As the serpent approached, he leapt out from behind the tree and shouted, "You will no longer terrorize this village." The serpent turned its gaze on Femi, hissing loudly, "Foolish boy. Do you think you can defeat me? Many have tried and failed." With a fierce determination, Femi lunged at the serpent, throwing his spear with all his might. It struck the serpent's side, and the beast let out a furious roar. But the serpent was not easily defeated. It thrashed about, trying to shake Femi off. Femi quickly dodged the serpent's powerful tail as it swung toward him. He had to think fast. Remembering the traps he had set, he led the serpent toward one of them. He guided the serpent into the trap with quick thinking and agility, which ensnared its tail. "Now is my chance," Femi yelled, charging forward. He thrust his spear into the serpent's vulnerable spot, and with a final ear-piercing roar, the serpent fell to the ground, defeated. The villagers erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the night. Femi had done the impossible. He had defeated the Night Serpent and freed the village from its grip of fear. Femi stood tall, panting but proud. He approached the king, who looked shocked yet impressed. "You have proven yourself brave," Femi the king said, albeit with a hint of reluctance. "You have earned your reward. What do you wish for?" "I wish to marry Io," Femi declared, his heart pounding with anticipation. The king's expression changed to one of anger. "I cannot give my daughter to a poor traveler. She deserves a man of wealth and status." Io, who had been watching with tears, felt her heart sink. "Father, please," she pleaded. "Femi is brave and kind. He deserves a chance." But the king's stubbornness would not waver. Io and Femi began secretly meeting, their love growing stronger each day. They talked about their dreams, and Io soon found herself pregnant. The king's dilemma. As news of Io's pregnancy spread, the villagers began to talk. They remembered the king's promise and were upset by his refusal to honor it. They confronted the king, demanding justice. Feeling the pressure from his people, the king devised a plan. "I will set Femi on 3 impossible tasks," he thought. "If he fails, I will have a reason to banish him, and Io will be mine to protect." The next day, the king summoned Femi. "You must complete 3 tasks to prove your worthiness to marry my daughter," he declared. "Only then will I consider giving you Io." Femi nodded determination in his eyes. "I will complete any task you set before me." The first task was to capture a rare white hawk that nested on the highest mountain. The villagers gasped. They knew the mountain was treacherous and dangerous. Many had attempted to reach the hawk but had never returned. Femi set out for the mountain early the following day with the villagers' support. He climbed cliffs and navigated through thick bushes, facing harsh winds and sharp rocks. Finally, after a long and exhausting journey, he found the hawk. He captured it with quick thinking and stealth and returned to the village. The king's face darkened. "Impressive," he said begrudgingly, "but you still have 2 more tasks to complete." The second task was even more challenging. The king ordered Femi to find a hidden treasure in a dark cave guarded by wild animals. Many villagers had been too afraid to venture near the cave, but Femi, driven by love for Io, accepted the challenge. As Femi entered the cave, a chill ran down his spine. The darkness was overwhelming, and he could hear the growls of the animals echoing around him. Using his wits, Femi devised a plan. He gathered some stones and began tossing them in different directions, drawing the animals' attention away from him. While distracted, Femi sneaked past them and found the treasure, a beautiful golden necklace adorned with precious stones. He carefully made his way back out of the cave, heart racing but triumphant. When he returned to the village, the people cheered for his bravery, but the king still needed more. "You've completed 2 tasks, but one remains," he said with disdain. The final task was a test of strength. The king declared, "You must face my strongest warriors in combat. If you can defeat them, you may have Io." Femi felt a sense of dread but nodded. He knew the warriors were skilled fighters, and he was just a traveler. However, he also knew that the villagers supported him. They believed in him, and that gave him strength. The day of the challenge arrived. The warriors lined up, their eyes focused on Femi, who stood ready to fight. Femi dodged blows and fought bravely as the battle began, but it quickly became apparent that he could not defeat them all. Just as Femi felt overwhelmed, the villagers shouted words of encouragement, reminding him of his love for Io and his promise to protect her. Seeing the warriors hesitate, Femi shouted, "I fight not for myself, but for Io and our child. I fight for this village, which deserves to live in peace." Touched by his words and courage, the villagers rallied behind him, creating a united front. With their support, Femi found the strength to push through, surprising himself with his resilience. Despite Femi's victories, the king was determined to rid himself of Femi for good. He summoned his guards and ordered them to take Femi away under the cover of night, planning to banish him from the village forever. However, that night, a storm brewed outside and thunder roared in the sky. A strange wind swept through the palace as the king lay in his bed. Suddenly, the gods appeared before him, their presence commanding and powerful. "King of the village," they warned, "you have broken your promise. You swore that Femi could marry Io if he defeated the Night Serpent. Now, you seek to harm him instead. If you do not fulfill your oath, we shall take your life." The king trembled, realizing the gravity of the situation. He had previously disregarded the gods' words, but now he understood their wrath was real. "I beg for mercy," he cried. "What must I do to make it right?" The gods replied, "Honor your promise, or face the consequences with that." They vanished, leaving the king to contemplate his fate. The next day, the king called for Femi in front of all the villagers. "I was wrong," he admitted, his voice trembling. "You have proven yourself worthy. I will honor my promise. You may marry Io." The villagers cheered, their voices echoing through the village. Femi and Io embraced, tears of joy in their eyes. They had fought for their love against all odds and could now be together. However, the king still felt the sting of defeat. He knew he had to find a way to maintain his power and respect, so he devised a new plan. "If you marry my daughter, you must help me lead this village. You must prove yourself worthy not just as a husband, but as a leader," he declared. Femi accepted the king's offer, eager to help the village thrive. With Io by his side, they began working together to bring peace and prosperity to the people. They introduced new farming techniques, taught the villagers how to defend themselves, and created a community that thrived on cooperation and trust. As time passed, Io gave birth to a beautiful child, and their family became a symbol of hope for the village. Femi's love for Io grew deeper each day, and together they faced leadership challenges with courage and kindness. The villagers admired Femi's strength and dedication, and the king, seeing how the people loved Femi, began to change his ways. He realized that authentic leadership came from humility and respect for others. As the years passed, the story of Femi, Io, and the Night Serpent became a cherished legend in the village. It taught the villagers about bravery, love, and the power of keeping promises. They learned that no matter how daunting a challenge may seem, anything is possible with courage, support, and determination. The villagers also understood the importance of standing up for what is right, even when faced with difficult situations. They remembered how Femi fought not just for his own happiness, but for the entire community's well-being. Femi's struggle reminded everyone that love and kindness can conquer even the darkest fears. And so the village thrived, filled with laughter and joy, forever grateful to the brave traveler who had come to their aid and changed their lives forever. Femi and Io ruled compassionately, and their legacy lived in the villagers' hearts for generations. Ultimately, Femi's journey showed that true strength lies not in wealth or power, but in the willingness to fight for love and honor one's promises. The gods had witnessed Femi's courage, the king's change of heart, and the unbreakable bond between Femi and Io. Their story serves as a reminder that love can overcome any obstacle, and promises, once made, should always be kept,